Thousands of women affected, who pays may not seem so relevant. But if there is no compromise, no agreement, then they will be left with two choices, either to pay or to live with the fear. Philip Williams, ABC News, London.
Now, today marks 10 years since the US government transferred the first detainees to Guantanamo Bay prison.
To coincide with the anniversary, Amnesty International has just released a report renewing its calls for that prison to be shut down. Katie Wood is a torture and terror expert with Amnesty International, and she joins us now from Sydney. Katie Wood, good morning. What does it mean to human rights groups like Amnesty that Guantanamo Bay is still open 10 years on?
Well, 10 years on, Guantanamo Bay remains the complete human rights disaster that it was when it was opened back in 2002, as you mentioned. It stands for such international human rights breaches as torture, rendition, enforced disappearances and unfair trials. It's now high time that the US government actually ends this continuing violation of human rights and ensures that those people still remaining there, all 171 of them, are dealt with in accordance with human rights standards. These standards include, if there is adequate evidence against them, that these people should be charged and brought before fair trials in the US mainland, or should be released if no adequate or proper evidence can be found against them.
President Obama, of course, promised to shut the prison during the 2008 election campaign. His spokesman yesterday said he was still very much committed to it. But, as you know, Katie Wood, it's not that easy to do it, is it? Where would these people go?
Well, frankly, they can be returned to their places of origin if they're not going to face further human rights violations.
But as you know, a lot of countries where these people are from, mainly men are from, don't want them back. Where does that leave the United States?
There must be solutions found. International law and upholding human rights is all about finding solutions to problems. It is incumbent upon the US government, having created this problem, to actually find proper solutions, which involves finding third countries in which they can be taken. Third countries in the past have been found, and so people have been transferred there. It is certainly not something that the US government cannot do. Additionally, international law does not take as a justification that domestic US politics should preclude it from actually upholding those very standards it itself proclaims that other countries should uphold.
It's very well to have these principles, Katie Wood. You talk about domestic US politics. It is stark reality, though, for President Obama. US Congress has specifically prevented him from moving detainees to the American mainland and from having what you call fair trials on the US mainland as well. So, again, his hands are tied. What does he do? You talk about finding solutions. What solutions does Amnesty propose?
Well, Amnesty has always said that the prosecution of the so-called war on terror or any counter-terrorism measures that are taken by governments, including the US, should make human rights at their centre. Had the US government actually put human rights at the centre of its strategies to deal with counter-terrorism from the word go, it would not be facing the problem that it's actually in now. So what we are calling upon the government, the US administration, to do is to now absolutely uphold those human rights standards, irrespective of the difficulty it may find politically. These are international legal standards which the US has voluntarily undertaken to uphold. Things like fair trials, torture, or unfair trials, torture and rendition are breaches of international law. What we also call upon is for accountability for those violations and remedies to be provided to the victims of those violations. It's not yet have we seen any kind of accountability for such international crimes as torture and enforced disappearance at all.
We have people there, including the so-called hard nuts. Chief among them, as you know, Katie Wood, is Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who should face a military commission sometime this year. Clearly a very dangerous individual, the alleged mastermind of the September 11 attacks. What do you do with a man like him? Where do you put him, given the political sensitivities involving him and the deep anger many people around the world feel about his alleged actions?
It would be much more satisfactory for the world if people like Khalid Sheikh Mohammed were actually properly charged and tried in properly constituted courts in the US. That way the whole world can in fact see that there is accountability for the terrible crimes that were meted out on September 11 back in 2001. It is unacceptable to put people before unfair trials. There is no way that anybody's guilt or innocence can be established before such tribunals.
The single detainee committed to life in prison, I believe, in Guantanamo Bay was a fellow by the name of Ali Hamza al-Balul, who happily volunteered to the military commission that he wanted to be the 20th hijacker on September 11. What's the difference between giving him a trial on the American mainland and going before a military commission that many people would agree gave him his due justice?
Well, I would have to disagree with you there. Many people actually do say military commissions fall very short of international fair trial standards and so therefore can in no way, shape or form be said to provide justice. Again, what we're calling for is that anybody who should be charged, where there's proper evidence actually against them, should be charged and tried in a properly constituted court.
Katie Wood from Amnesty, thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Now, hundreds of volunteers are continuing the clean-up after a phosphate ship, the MV Tycoon, smashed into rocks at Christmas Island early this week.
The MV Tycoon is just the latest in a number of ships in recent times which have passed through Australian waters and